Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with my boy Cal. Cal, say what's rocking.
Hey, yo, we ready to rock?
Hey, today we're talking about Brainiac. I brought in our resident expert, Calvin Ellis. You know, we have this whole House of Brainiac series that's coming out right now uh, for Superman and Green Lantern. It's DC's spring event. But in addition, Brainiac will be, or I think will be, the main villain for the James Gunn new Superman film. So who better to talk about Brainiac? Someone who's been one of Superman's villains forever, for our resident expert himself, Mr. Calvin Ellis. Hey, Cal, can you give us a little background who Brainiac is?
Oh man. Okay. Let's try to keep this short because a lot of history. Brainiac appears Action Comics 242, and one of the things that was appealing about Brainiac is that he actually had a force field, and the force field that Superman couldn't penetrate his force field. Now, mind you, this is the Silver Age Superman. There was very little that he couldn't do if he wanted to, but
Right.
he couldn't penetrate the force field. And so he had to find another way to route Brainiac after they meet the first time. And the other appeal of the character was that he had these bottle cities, which at the time, was something that was, the whole idea of collecting stuff, keeping it under glass, scientifically was something that was popular, because a lot of the comics, the government had actually asked if they could push more science, in the comics because they wanted more kids to go into the field because of, space race and such. So
Right.
that was also a byproduct of it. But because of that, he was like Brainiac and he came back. And so, he would come back to play Superman again. But what was more was that Brainiac also teamed up with Lex Luthor, forming what we would then, all Superman fans would then call the Luthor Brainiac team. So you had this incredibly highly intelligent alien and Lex Luthor, who was always supposed to be the most intelligent person on Earth, and they would team up to take out Superman. Never did it though. So, those things went pretty well. Then Brainiac got a redesign sometime in the Bronze Age in the 80s. He got a redesign, and then Crisis on Infinite Earths hit, and they decided they were going to wipe the slate clean for Superman and start all over. And after that, it becomes very difficult to keep track of Brainiac, at least for me, past the Brainiac 13, because the original Brainiac that they had after 1986 wasn't even green. He
Hmm.
was a human, and somehow Brainiac's consciousness found its way into this human being's body, whose name was Milton Fine, but he still had the mental ability. So that was one. But then the other thing was that Superman post 1986 wasn't portrayed as being as intelligent as he was in the Bronze Age, pre crisis. So then it became, well, how's he going to take this guy on? Because Superman, as we knew him, in the Bronze Age was smart enough to outsmart both Lex Luthor and Brainiac if necessary. But now you had this, you have a character like Brainiac, and so you was like, well, what's he going to do? And slowly but surely, Brainiac started to look more, if not exactly, like what he looked like in the Silver Age, green dots on his head, those sorts of things. But that took a while. And then with each new iterance, you got a new Brainiac number. So at one point, this is around the year 2000, you had Brainiac 13, and after that I just stopped keeping count. I said this is just ridiculous, especially since if you go to the future in the Legion of Superheroes, there's Brainiac 5, and the he's supposed to be a descendant of the Brainiac, from the stories that we're contemporaneously reading. So after a while the numbers just don't make sense. But now we get to see him. He's part of the House of Brainiac storyline that's being very well received, and from what I hear, he's supposed to be the villain for Superman in the upcoming Superman film.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, the question is he up to Superman's level? I mean, here we have him
Brainiac?
with a whole. It looks like a whole host of Brainiacs, right? In this image here. But the question is he a villain who can go toe to toe with Superman? In your terms, what's your thought on that?
Well, yeah, but Brainiac was always an intellectual, mental challenge for Superman. He wasn't a physical challenge. The physical challenge for Superman was the force field around Brainiac's ship. He would have to find a way to bypass it. There was one issue where yet he realized that if he hit the ship would, bring up its force field, but then it would there was like a slight interval where he might be able to bypass, and so he was able to fly in. Then once there was like only on one occasion that I recall, this is the Bronze Age, he was able just to break through Brainiac's force field. It was that strong, and Superman can break through force fields. It's not like this is something that's unachievable for him. But Brainiac, yeah, he's again, this is a popular Superman villain. Some of they have some really good stories involving Brainiac versus Superman. The one written by Jeff Johns is probably the best modern story, where they're actually meeting for the first time. He's meeting Brainiac, and what they're saying is that all the other Brainiacs you've met up to this point, those are just like emissaries or heralds of Brainiac, if you will, and then he's finally meeting him for the first time. And it was a good story because it reintroduced Kandor, that those sorts of elements back into the Superman mythos. But Brainiac, yeah, Brainiac is a highly intelligent alien, okay, with what is known as a 12th level intellect. Okay, so a lot of times he's got everything already planned out, and most of the guys just aren't capable on taking him. But Superman usually finds a way to do it.
Got it. So Brainiac, you would say he would be his top what, 1, 2, 3 villain? I mean, you have Lex Luthor was probably number one, clearly, but Brainiac. I mean, how high does he rank in I guess
Top
Superman
Brainiac is top five.
top five? Okay, well that's good. That's
Top
good.
five, and top five is top five has to do some rotation because number Lex Luthor is going to take the number one spot for a lot of reasons, but mostly because he's the oldest. So he's going to take the top spot, and then Brainiac will definitely be in that top five. And the other three are going to rotate. There's going to be a nice rotating cast. Some people will say Mongols, some people will say Doomsday, some people will say I don't know, but he's definitely top five.
Okay. So you touched a little bit on a future version of Brainiac. I mean, can you expound a little bit on that? So in the future, there is a good
Brain,
Brainiac versus
Brain, Brainiac five.
I don't know. I think you said 5 or 13. I'm not sure. The one from the Legion.
Brainiac 13 was coinciding with the year 2000,
Okay.
but no, Brainiac 5 is a descendant. Brainiac hails from the planet Colu, and uh, I guess most of the time they have this name Dox. It'll be Vrilldrox or something of that nature. But Brainiac 5 is one of his. Brainiac 5 is supposed to be a descendant of the Brainiac that Superman fights with, which of course is pretty ironic because now he's palling around with Superboy, who, I mean, you see the issue here because Superboy, of course, is Superman as a boy, and he's adventuring with Brainiac 5, who is one of Brainiac's descendants. Now, Superboy never meets Brainiac.
Hmm.
Okay, he only meets Brainiac 5. And of course, Brainiac 5, he knows all the history of Superman, and his ancestor Brainiac. So you have that dynamic going on. But Brainiac 5 is a Colin. He works with the Legion of Superheroes. Again, highly intelligent, 12th level intellect. Sometimes he's romantically paired with Supergirl. And if you're a Legion character, he's definitely one of the more popular Legion superhero characters.
Okay. So here's a question. Now going back to Brainiac, and why do you consider him the in terms of power level? You're saying it's just not even power level; it's the intellect that really drives it. But who is Brainiac? Where did he come from? Do you know?
Yeah, Planet Colu.
Planet Call. And so what happened? The planet he outgrew the planet, or what? He enslaved the planet.
No, he didn't enslave the planet, but he's originally he's a scientist, intellectual coming from the planet Colu, and he's just in search of knowledge.
Got it.
And so, he goes from planet to planet, and he would just take like a city from the planet so he could study it. But then he wants to have a repository of all the knowledge of the known universe or the universe. So the first time we meet Brainiac, he's coming to Earth to pretty much take Metropolis and make off with it because, that represents, a high point of civilization on Earth. Superman, of course, stops him. But if you go onto Brainiac's ship, there are cities from all over the universe that are on his ship, where he's taking, he's pretty much just like, taking a bite and leaving the rest. But he was doing that in the pursuit of knowledge to acquire it and to be the sole owner of that knowledge.
What a bum. Okay, well, thank you very much for explaining all that to us, Cal. Again, if you guys like what you heard, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, spin a rack.
Hey, we're out.